The Grand Council chamber gleamed with an artificial light that seemed to make every surface shine. William Carter straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and took a deep breath. After 15 years as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, this would be his last appearance, his last duty. Behind him stood 4 other human representatives, their faces showing no emotion. The chamber held representatives from 27 alien civilizations. Some looked almost human. Others resembled nothing Earth's imagination had ever created. They sat on rising platforms, arranged in tiers of importance. Humans were near the bottom, despite having mastered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. "The Council recognizes Ambassador Carter of Earth," said High Counselor Zrithrax. The tall, gray-skinned alien's voice boomed through the chamber. His species, the Vidrati, had founded the Council 3,000 years ago. Their arrogance had only grown since then. "Thank you, High Counselor." Carter's voice was calm. He had practiced this speech many times. "I stand before you today to announce that as of this moment, Earth and all human colonies are withdrawing from the Galactic Council and all associated treaties." A wave of murmurs swept through the chamber. Several representatives stood up in shock. The Vidrati counselor's face tightened, the first sign of emotion Carter had ever seen from him. "This is most irregular, Ambassador," Zrithrax said. "Perhaps you would care to explain this dramatic gesture?" Carter nodded. "For 60 years, humanity has tried to be a good partner in galactic affairs. We've followed your rules. We've paid your taxes. We've restricted our growth and our technology as demanded." He paused, letting the words sink in. "And in return, we have been lied to, manipulated, and treated as children." "These are serious accusations," said another counselor, a blue-skinned Merodian. "Do you have proof?" Carter pressed a button on his wrist device. Suddenly, the air above him filled with floating screens. Each showed recordings of secret meetings, copies of hidden agreements, and data proving years of systematic discrimination against humans. 3 weeks ago, the Zelnar Imperium placed warships around our colony on Tau Ceti. They called it a protective quarantine. We call it a blockade, an act of aggression." Carter pointed to a specific screen showing massive alien ships surrounding a small human colony. This was the final straw. The Zelnar representative, a red-scaled creature, hissed from its seat. "Your colony was developing forbidden technologies." "The colony was developing better farming methods," Carter replied. "Methods you didn't want spreading because they would make others less dependent on Zelnar food exports." The chamber erupted in argument. Some representatives shouted at humans, others argued with each other. The Vidrati counselor banged a glowing rod against his desk until silence returned. "Ambassador Carter," Zrithrax said, "this dramatic display changes nothing. Humanity is a young species. You need the Council's guidance and protection. The galaxy is dangerous for those who stand alone." Carter smiled for the first time. "We are not asking for permission, Counselor. We are informing you of our decision. As of today, all human ships will cease carrying Council goods. All human-operated stations will no longer serve as neutral ports. All human technologies shared under treaty will require new agreements directly with Earth." Now, real concern showed on many alien faces. Human ships carried nearly half of all goods in Council space. Human stations served as neutral meeting grounds for species who otherwise would never interact. Human adaptive technologies had become essential on dozens of worlds. "You cannot survive without the Council," said the Merodian representative. "Your planets will be isolated. Your economy will collapse." "Perhaps," said Carter. "Or perhaps you never understood what humanity truly offers to galactic society." A smaller alien, fur-covered and gentle-looking, spoke up. "Ambassador, surely we can discuss this. What does Earth want? Better trade terms? More representation? Or Tyr?" Shook his head. "What we wanted was respect and honesty. For 60 years we've been denied both. Now we'll make our own way." The Vidrati counselor's expression darkened. "The primitives will return when they realize their vulnerability," he said to the chamber, not even addressing Carter directly. "They always do." Carter gathered his notes and gestured to his team. As they turned to leave, he stopped and looked back at the Council one last time. "We aren't leaving because we're weak. he said quietly. We're leaving because you've never understood our strength. As the human delegation walked out, the chamber descended into chaos. 2 days later, in Earth's orbital headquarters, Carter sat with President Lily Banks and her cabinet. The main screen showed the status of human ships across the galaxy. Hundreds of dots of light were moving, all heading toward human space. Operation Homecoming is proceeding as planned, said Alan Reeves, the Defense Secretary. 80% of our ships and citizens will be back in human territory within 2 weeks. And the remaining 20%? Asked the President. Special. Volunteers staying behind to help our friends, Carter explained. Not every species in the Council treated us badly. Some will suffer when the Council realizes they were friendly with us. What about the blockade at Tau Ceti? Asked someone. Defense Secretary Reeves smiled. The colony is evacuated, and the Zelnar ships? They're just sitting there, watching an empty world. President Banks stood up and walked to the window. Earth shone blue and beautiful below them. The Council thinks we're having a tantrum, she said. They think we'll come crawling back. They never bothered to truly study human history, said Carter. When has isolation ever stopped human progress? When has adversity ever made us weaker? Banks turned to face the room. How long until the first effects of our withdrawal hit the Council worlds? The first shipping shortages will start in about 2 weeks, said the economic advisor. Energy systems dependent on human maintenance will begin failing within a month. The real problems will start in 3 to 4 months. And they really have no idea? Asked the President. Carter shook his head. They think of us as children. Useful children, but children nonetheless. They've never seen what humans can do when we focus on our own advancement instead of following their restrictions. Then it's time they learned, said Banks. Operation Independent Dawn is approved. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can really do. On the screens around them, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. 6 months after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, Captain Alice Weber stood on the bridge of her ship, the Nomad's Fortune. The independent freighter floated just outside the busy trading hub of Kepler Station. Alice frowned at the screen showing ships waiting to dock. The line was much longer than usual. How long until we can dock? She asked her first officer, a stocky man named John Kelly. Station control says 12 hours at least, John replied. Something's wrong with their scheduling system. Alice knew better. Kepler Station had been run by humans until recently. The aliens who took over clearly didn't understand the complex docking systems. What's our cargo status? She asked. Medical supplies for the inner sectors. They're already 3 days late. Alice nodded. Since humans had pulled their ships from Council space, delivery delays had become common. Few had realized how much the galaxy depended on human shipping. Get me a direct channel to station control, she said. The screen flickered, showing a blue-skinned Merodian with 4 eyes. The alien looked tired. Captain Weber, it said. Your ship must wait its turn like all others. My cargo is medical supplies for Proxima Center, Alice said calmly. Children will die if these supplies don't arrive tomorrow. The Merodian blinked all 4 eyes in a pattern Alice recognized as stress. Many ships claim emergency cargo. Check. My shipping history, Alice replied. 10 years, no false claims. After a moment, the alien nodded. Dock at Bay 17 in 2 hours, but be warned, Captain. The station is tense. 2 hours later, Alice walked through Kepler Station with John and their security officer, Frank Rivera. The difference from her last visit was striking. Garbage piled in corners. Lighting flickered in some sections. Various aliens argued loudly at service counters. Reminds me of pictures from the fall of the old Soviet Union, John muttered. Keep your voice down, Alice warned. We're not here to make trouble. They reached a small cafe that used to be run by a human family. Now a pair of insect-like wrecks served drinks. Alice chose a corner table where they could watch the main corridor. A tall human man approached their table. His face was unfamiliar, but he wore the casual clothes of a trader. Without asking, he sat down with them. Captain Weber, he said quietly. Gregory Nelson, formerly Earth Intelligence. Alice tensed but didn't show surprise. I don't know you. No reason you should. But I know the Nomad's fortune has made 6 delivery runs into Council space when most human ships have gone home. He leaned forward. I need passage to Tau Ceti. That system is blockaded, said Frank. Nelson smiled. Not anymore. The Zelnar ships left 2 weeks ago. Why? Alice asked. Because they were guarding an empty planet, and because they're needed elsewhere now. Nelson pulled out a small device and placed it on the table. It projected a map showing red dots across Council space. These are systems reporting food shortages. Alice studied the map. The outer colonies always struggled with supplies, but not the core worlds, Nelson said, pointing to several red dots near the center. Centauri Prime itself had food riots last week. John looked skeptical. The Council controls thousands of worlds. Humans only handled part of their shipping. 43%, Nelson corrected. Almost half. But it's not just shipping. Human engineers maintained key systems on many worlds. Human chemicals were used in their farming. Human scientists solved problems others couldn't. Alice had seen enough in just 6 months to believe him. So why do you need passage to Tau Ceti? Because that's where we're building something new. Nelson's eyes shone with excitement, something the Council always feared. Before he could explain, shouting erupted near the cafe entrance. A group of red-scaled Zelnar were confronting a family of furry Rathari. Prey friends, one Zelnar shouted. You traded with humans. The Rathari father pushed his children behind him. We traded with everyone. It was business. The lead Zelnar stepped closer. Now you suffer with them. Alice stood quickly, her hand moving to the stunner hidden under her jacket. But before she could intervene, station security arrived. The Zelnar backed away, hissing threats. It's getting worse everywhere, Nelson said when Alice sat back down. The Council is falling apart. They're blaming humans, blaming anyone who worked with us. And you think Tau Ceti is safe? Frank asked. Nelson smiled again. The safest place outside Earth now. The start of something better. Alice made her decision. We deliver our medical supplies first. Then we can talk about Tau Ceti. Later that day, as they prepared to leave the station, an alarm sounded. John checked the systems. Station security is looking for a human matching Nelson's description, he reported. And they've put a lock on our ship. Alice moved quickly to the communications panel. This is Captain Weber to station control. We have permission to depart. The blue Merodian appeared on screen again. Your ship is suspected of harboring a fugitive. Security will board for inspection. Alice saw 3 security vessels approaching. On the radar, she had seconds to decide. John, power up the new shields, she ordered. Frank, get Nelson to the cargo hold. The new shields aren't Council approved, John warned. We're not in the Council anymore, Alice reminded him. When the security ships came within range, Alice activated the shields. A shimmering blue field surrounded the Nomad's fortune. The security vessels fired warning shots, but the energy simply dispersed across the shield. Breaking dock, Alice announced, guiding her ship away from the station. The security ships followed, but the Nomads, engines also recently upgraded, quickly outpaced them. Within minutes, they were safely away. In the quiet of deep space, Alice finally spoke to Nelson again. Now tell me what's at Tau Ceti that's worth risking my ship and crew. Nelson showed her another projection, this time of a beautiful green planet with massive structures visible from orbit. We call it New Beginning, he said. In 6 months, we've built what the Council said would take decades. No restrictions, no alien oversight, just human ingenuity and hard work. Alice stared at the image. How many people? 2 million already. Growing daily as ships like yours bring more. And the Council doesn't know? Nelson shook his head. They think we're huddling on Earth, suffering without their help. Instead, we're creating something better than they ever allowed. Alice thought of the deteriorating station they'd just left. The shortages, the conflicts breaking out. The Council is collapsing, she realized aloud. Yes, Nelson agreed. They're discovering too late that they needed us far more than we needed them. Alice looked at the stars streaking past her view screen. For the first time in months, she felt hopeful about the future. Set course for Tau Ceti, she ordered. Let's see this new beginning. 2 years had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council. Council member Krell Voss of the Arthean Collective sat alone in his small ship as it approached the edge of Earth's solar system. He had come without official permission. If the other council members discovered his mission, he would lose his position, perhaps even his life. The ship's computer beeped. Warning, entering restricted space. Identify immediately. Krell Voss leaned toward the communication panel. His forearms moved nervously. This is Council Member Krell Voss of the Arthean Collective. I request peaceful entry and diplomatic talks. Silence followed. Krell Voss checked his sensors. They showed nothing unusual in the space ahead. Yet he felt watched. Suddenly, dozens of small objects appeared on his screen. They had been invisible moments before. His ship's computer identified them as defense platforms, weapons locked onto his vessel from all directions. Council Member Krell Voss, a human voice finally responded. Your request is unusual. The Council declared us dangerous isolationists. Why would you come here? Because the Council is dying, Krell Voss said simply, and I believe humans knew it would happen. After another pause, a new voice spoke. Proceed to these coordinates. Any deviation will result in immediate response. His navigation system received a path to follow. As Krell Voss piloted toward it, more objects became visible. An entire defense grid surrounded Earth's solar system. None of it had existed 2 years ago. His ship was directed to a space station orbiting Mars. When he docked and the airlock opened, Krell Voss found himself facing a human woman in a simple gray uniform. No weapons were visible, but guards stood nearby. I am Patricia Winters, Earth's Director of Extraterrestrial Relations, she said. Welcome to Mars Station 1. Krell Voss had expected cold treatment. Instead, Patricia led him through the station with polite efficiency. The station itself surprised him. It was larger and more advanced than anything he had expected. I thought humans would be struggling, he admitted as they entered a meeting room. The Council believed without our technology networks, your colonies would suffer greatly. Patricia smiled. We've been quite busy these past 2 years. The wall of the meeting room transformed into a view screen showing the surface of Mars below. Vast cities spread across the red landscape. Massive factories, green parks under clear domes, spaceports with hundreds of ships. 2 years ago, our Mars colony had 20,000 people, Patricia said. Now it has 2 million. Krell Voss stared, in disbelief. How? Even with your full resources, such growth should be impossible. Please sit. Patricia gestured to a chair designed for his four-armed body. Would you like refreshment? After they were settled, Patricia continued. The Council restricted human development in many ways. Some restrictions made sense for galactic stability. Others existed only to keep humanity dependent on more established species. That is a serious accusation, Krell Voss said. One we can prove. Patricia activated a data tablet. For example, the Council told us terraforming Mars would take 300 years. Once we applied our own methods without restrictions, we achieved breathable atmospheres in controlled areas within 18 months. Impossible, Krell Voss whispered. Before we show you more, I must ask, why are you here, Council member? Krell Voss hesitated, then decided on complete honesty. 3 Council races have announced their withdrawal in the past month. Trade networks are collapsing. The Zelnar Imperium threatens military action against any world that deals with humans, but he paused. Worlds that have established direct contact with humans seem to be thriving. Like the Brill homeworld, Patricia asked. Yes. They withdrew from Council trade agreements 6 months ago. Now they report food surpluses when other worlds face shortages. Patricia nodded. We offered the Brill new agricultural methods. No strings attached, just fair trade. The Council fears you are building an empire to rival our own. Not an empire. A partnership. Patricia stood. Would you like to see more? For the next several hours, Krelvos toured Mars. He saw factories producing ships faster than any council world could match. Research centers developing technologies the council had deemed too dangerous for younger species. Most surprising were the alien faces he saw among the humans, representatives from 7 species that had traditionally depended on council support. "They're learning from us," Patricia explained, as they watched a group of furry Rathari working alongside humans in a hydroponics facility. "And we're learning from them." That evening, in a viewing dome overlooking a new Martian city, Krelvos finally asked the question that had brought him across space. "How did humans know?" he asked. "How did you know that leaving the council would make you stronger, not weaker?" Patricia looked at the stars visible through the clear dome. Throughout human history, isolation has forced innovation. Necessity drives invention. The council solved too many problems for us, but always with their solutions, their technologies. They kept us dependent. But the collapse of the council itself, did you predict that? Patricia turned to face him. "We knew the council took more from humanity than it acknowledged. We suspected the same was true for other younger species. The rest was simple math." A young aide approached them, whispering something to Patricia. Her expression turned serious. "News?" Krelvos asked. "3 more council races have just announced their withdrawal," she said, "including the Merodians." Krelvos felt a chill. The Merodians were one of the founding species of the council. The Zelnar Imperium has responded by declaring these withdrawals illegal, Patricia continued. "They're mobilizing their fleet." "It could mean war," Krelvos said. "Only if the Zelnar choose that path." Patricia's voice was calm but firm. "We've avoided direct conflict with council forces, but we won't allow aggressive action against worlds seeking independence." "You would fight the Zelnar? Their fleet is the largest in the galaxy." Patricia simply gestured to the Martian landscape around them, built in just 2 years. "Size isn't everything, council member." The next morning, Krelvos prepared to return to council space. Patricia met him at his ship. "What will you tell the council?" she asked. "The truth," he replied, "that humans haven't been hiding or suffering, that you've been building something new, something better perhaps than what the council created." "And will they listen?" Krelvos thought of the proud Vedrati, the aggressive Zelnar, and the other, elder races who had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. "Some will not," he admitted. "They will see only a threat to their power." "And you?" Patricia asked. "What do you see?" Krelvos looked at her with all 4 of his eyes. "I see a mistake. The council never understood humans. We thought you needed us. We never considered that perhaps we needed you." As his ship pulled away from Mars, Krelvos received a message from his homeworld. The Arthean leadership had voted. They too would withdraw from the council. They wished to establish direct relations with Earth. Looking back at the human solar system, now protected by defenses that had appeared in just 2 years, Krelvos understood something important. Humans hadn't walked away from diplomacy. They had walked away from control disguised as diplomacy, and the galaxy would never be the same. 4 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. The Council, once proud with its 27 member species, now had only 18. The remaining members met in the Grand Chamber on Centauri Prime, but many seats stood empty. High, Councillor Zrithrax of the Vedrati pounded his glowing rod against the floor. "Order!" he demanded. "The council will have order." The room gradually quieted. Tension filled the air. On the main screen, a map showed the galaxy divided into new regions. The areas marked in blue, human-aligned worlds, and had grown alarmingly large. "The human infection spreads," said the Zelnar representative Drextor. His red scales gleamed under the lights. 9 former council races now trade openly with Earth. They adopt human technologies. They reject our authority. "Perhaps because humans offer fair terms," suggested a small, green representative from the outer worlds. Drextor hissed. "They offer chaos. The galactic order we created over thousands of years collapses while we debate. Zrithrax raised his hand for silence. The situation requires action. The Zelnar Imperium has proposed a military solution to the human problem. They will lead a fleet to the Tau Ceti colony and establish council control. Tau Ceti is heavily defended, warned another member. The Zelnar fleet is the strongest in the galaxy, Drexitor boasted. 300 warships. Human defenses will fall in hours. After debate, the vote was taken. By a narrow margin, the council authorized the Zelnar operation. As the session ended, Zrithrax approached Drexitor privately. "Counselor, are you certain this is wise?" he asked quietly. "Reports suggest human military technology has advanced considerably." The Zelnar bared his sharp teeth in what passed for a smile. "The humans have always been clever, but they lack numbers and experience. Our fleet departs tomorrow. In 1 week, the human threat will end." Across the galaxy, on the bridge of the human warship Defender, Admiral Samuel Ross received the news of the approaching Zelnar fleet. Unlike most military commanders facing overwhelming odds, he appeared calm. At 62, Ross had gray hair and the weathered face of someone who had seen many battles. 300 ships, said his executive officer, Lisa Ryan. "Our fleet at Tau Ceti has only 42 vessels." Ross nodded. "The Zelnar expect us to either retreat or be destroyed. They don't expect us to be ready." "Are we ready, sir?" Lisa asked. Ross looked at the tactical display. Their ships were arranged in an unusual pattern around Tau Ceti. Not a defensive formation at all, but spread out in what looked like a random arrangement. "For 4 years, we've avoided direct military confrontation," Ross said. "We've built, traded, and formed alliances. The Council thinks we've been hiding." He smiled slightly. "We haven't been hiding. We've been preparing." The Admiral opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Admiral Ross. The Zelnar fleet will arrive in approximately 15 hours. They come to establish control over human space, beginning with Tau Ceti. I need not tell you what that means for the 2 million colonists on the planet below." He paused, looking at the faces of his captains on the screen. "For years, we've held back, avoiding conflict while we built something better than what the Council offered. Today we show the galaxy that humanity will defend its friends and its future. Battle stations, Ross out." Throughout the fleet, crews prepared for the coming fight. Unlike the warships of the Council races, human vessels operated with smaller crews. Much of each ship was automated, controlled by advanced computers. In his private quarters, Ross called Earth. Patricia Winters appeared on the screen. Now she was not just the Director of Extraterrestrial Relations, but also the Vice President of Earth. "The Ghost Fleet is ready," Ross reported. "But once we use it, there's no going back. The Council will know what we've developed." Patricia nodded solemnly. "The President has authorized full deployment if necessary. We won't lose Tau Ceti." 12 hours later, the Zelnar fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. As expected, they were massive. The flagship alone was 5 times larger than the biggest human vessel. Admiral Ross opened a communication channel. "Zelnar fleet, this is Admiral Samuel Ross of Earth Defense Force. You are entering protected space without permission. Withdraw immediately." The response came quickly. On the screen appeared a Zelnar commander, his scaled face showing contempt. "Human Admiral, this system falls under Council authority. Surrender your ships and prepare for occupation." "This is your final warning," Ross said calmly. "Tau Ceti is a human colony with 2 million civilians. Any aggressive action will be met with full defensive response." The Zelnar commander laughed. "Your pathetic fleet cannot stop us. The Council has ruled. The human experiment ends today." The channel closed. Ross looked at his tactical officer. "They're moving into attack formation." "Orders, Admiral?" asked Lisa. "Activate the Ghost Fleet," Ross commanded. Throughout the Tau Ceti system, something extraordinary happened. In the seemingly empty space between the human ships, new vessels appeared. Not dozens, but hundreds. They had been there all along, Hidden by technology the Council had forbidden to younger races. On the Zelnar flagship, alarms blared. The commander stared in disbelief at his sensors. Impossible! Where did they come from? His tactical officer looked up in horror. Sir, we're detecting 500 vessels. Most appear unmanned. The Ghost Fleet, automated ships controlled by advanced artificial intelligence. The Council had always feared such technology and forbidden its development. Humans had built it anyway. Admiral Ross sent one final message to the Zelnar. This is not a battle you can win. Withdraw now and no lives need be lost today. The Zelnar commander, enraged and humiliated, ordered his fleet to attack. It was a terrible mistake. The Ghost Fleet moved with perfect coordination, no organic crew could match. They anticipated Zelnar tactics, countered their weapons, and disabled their systems without destroying the ships. In under 2 hours, the mighty Zelnar armada was crippled. Not one human vessel was lost. Admiral Ross stood on his bridge watching as the defeated Zelnar fleet limped away from Tau Ceti. They had expected an easy victory. Instead, they had discovered that humans had advanced far beyond what the Council believed possible. As the last enemy ships disappeared into faster-than-light travel, Ross received an urgent message from Earth. 7 more Council races had announced their intention to leave the Council and seek alliance with humanity. The Council was no longer collapsing slowly. It was falling apart. Ross looked out at the stars, thinking about the path that had led here. Not through conquest, he said quietly, but by building something better. Lisa, standing nearby, asked, "Sir?" "That's how humans will reshape the galaxy," Ross explained. "Not through conquest like the Zelnar would, but by building something better and inviting others to join us." The Admiral smiled as reports came in from across the system. The colony below was safe. The Ghost Fleet had performed flawlessly. And across the galaxy, worlds that had lived under Council rule for centuries were choosing a new path. "Send word to Earth," Ross ordered. "Operation Revelation is complete." And it worked, better than we ever imagined. 6 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, the Great Council chamber on Centauri Prime stood nearly empty. Once, representatives from 27 advanced species had filled this room. Today, only 8 remained. High Counselor Zerithrax of the Vedrati sat in his elevated chair, but his former authority had faded like his gray skin. The Zelnar seats were empty. After their failed military action against Tau Ceti, the Zelnar Imperium had isolated itself. The humiliation of their defeat had caused political upheaval in their empire. The council session today wasn't about policy or trade. It was about survival. The remaining members spoke in hushed tones, discussing rumors of a new galactic organization forming around Earth. "The transport ships are ready," one member said. "If we must evacuate." The massive doors at the entrance swung open. Everyone turned. A human woman walked in, accompanied by representatives from more than 30 different species, some former council members, others who had never been invited to join. The woman was Eleanor Hayes, Earth's first galactic president. At 55, she had the confident walk of someone comfortable with leadership. She wore a simple blue suit without decorations or medals. "High Counselor," she said, nodding respectfully to Zrithrax. "Thank you for allowing us to use this historic chamber." Zrithrax rose slowly. "President Hayes, the Council did not expect your delegation to arrive so soon. Time is valuable," Hayes replied. "And there is much work to do." The Vedrati counselor looked at the diverse group behind her. Former enemies stood side by side. The furry Rathari next to the insectoid Virex, the crystalline Phoros beside the gaseous Nimbari. "What is the meaning of this gathering?" Zrithrax asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Today marks the first meeting of the Galactic Cooperative," Hayes announced. 32 species have agreed to join. We hoped the Council would send representatives as well. Another Council member stepped forward. "You mean you've replaced the Council with your own authority?" Hayes shook her head. "Not replaced, not authority. This is different. At her signal, workers began rearranging the chamber. The rising tiers of seats, designed to show status and power, were replaced with a circular arrangement where all seats were positioned at the same level. The council was built on hierarchy, Hayes explained. The Galactic Cooperative is built on equality. No species commands others. We collaborate, we share, we grow together. Zrithrax watched the transformation of the chamber he had presided over for decades. And if we refuse to join your cooperative? That is your choice, Hayes said simply. We force no one, but the trade networks, scientific exchanges, and mutual defense agreements will proceed without you. As the chamber rearrangement finished, representatives began taking their new seats. Hayes gestured to empty chairs reserved for the current council members. Your knowledge and experience would be valuable, she told them. There are places for you if you choose to join us. Some of the council members looked interested. Others seemed offended. Zrithrax remained expressionless. The meeting began without them. For 3 hours, Hayes guided discussions about new trade routes, scientific cooperation, and fair resource distribution. Problems that had caused conflict for centuries were addressed with fresh approaches. Species that had never been allowed to speak in the council chamber now offered valuable insights. During a brief recess, Zrithrax approached Hayes in a quiet corner. Impressive performance, he said. But can you maintain this harmony? The galaxy is complex. Many of these species have ancient rivalries. Hayes considered his words. We don't expect perfection, just progress. Humans know about conflict and prejudice. Our history is full of it. But we also know about overcoming differences. You still need experienced guidance, Zrithrax suggested. Hayes smiled slightly. Perhaps, but not control disguised as guidance. That was the council's mistake. Before Zrithrax could respond, the chamber doors opened again. A tall Zelnar entered alone. It was Drexitor, former council representative whose fleet had been defeated at Tau Ceti. The room fell silent. The Zelnar walked slowly to where Hayes and Zrithrax stood. President Hayes, he said, his voice lacking its former arrogance. I come on behalf of the new Zelnar leadership. Hayes nodded carefully. You are welcome, Representative Drexitor. Not representative, he corrected. Just messenger. Our new leaders wish to know if the Zelnar would be permitted to join your cooperative. Surprised whispers filled the chamber. The proud Zelnar asking to join? All species are welcome, Hayes said, but members agree to certain principles. Peaceful, resolution of disputes, fair trade, respect for sovereignty. Even after what happened at Tau Ceti? Drexitor asked. Especially after Tau Ceti, Hayes replied. We defended ourselves, but we did not seek revenge. Your ships were disabled, not destroyed. Your crews were allowed to return home. Drexitor bowed his scaled head. The new leadership will send proper representatives tomorrow. They will sign your accords. As the Zelnar departed, Zrithrax looked at Hayes with new understanding. You could have destroyed them, conquered their worlds. Humans have always been aggressive in your history. We've learned from our mistakes, Hayes said. Conquest only brings temporary control. Cooperation builds lasting peace. The session resumed. By day's end, 35 species had signed the Sol Accords, establishing the foundation of the Galactic Cooperative. Even some former council members joined, though Zrithrax and a few others only agreed to observe for now. After the historic meeting, Hayes found a quiet moment alone in a small garden outside the chamber. An elderly human man joined her there. It was William Carter, the ambassador whose speech 6 years ago had started everything. Congratulations, Madam President, Carter said. Did you ever imagine this when you walked away from the council? Hayes looked at the stars visible above them. We didn't walk away from diplomacy. We walked away from a broken system to build a better one. She smiled. And we invited everyone to join us. Carter nodded. They feared we were building an empire to replace theirs. Fear was always their weakness, Hayes replied. They feared what younger species might become, so they controlled us. They feared losing power, so they clung to it until it broke in their hands. The next day, in the newly arranged chamber, President Hayes opened the first working session of the Galactic Cooperative as representatives discussed solutions to problems that had seemed insurmountable under the old council. Hayes observed a simple truth. Humans hadn't changed the galaxy through superior weapons or clever tactics. They had changed it by offering a better vision and the courage to build it. The Galactic Council had collapsed in fear when humans walked away. But from that collapse, something stronger had emerged. Not an empire, not a hierarchy. A true cooperative of diverse species working together toward a future brighter than any single civilization could create alone.